Hey there everyone, AJ back again for the Mighty Gluestick channel. I make videos about Dungeons & Dragons lore full time and have a collection of hundreds of monster ecology and strategy videos on my channel. If you like what I do, please consider subscribing as I upload at least twice a week. I think it's a good time to talk about the intelligent aquatic races of the world of Toril, because I was spending so much time explaining why they are around and who they are as I was making the rest of the video about the sahuagin, that it was becoming more of a historical and ecological exploration of the waters of the Forgotten Realms and an actual ecology video about the sahuagin themselves. So I went with it. Here is a fairly comprehensive list and description of the intelligent aquatic races of Toril and the powers that lead them. The sahuagin are usually green-skinned, darker on the back and lighter on the belly. Many have dark stripes, bands or spots, but these tend to fade with age. An adult male sahuagin stands roughly 6 feet or 1.83 meters tall and weighs around 200 pounds or 91 kilograms. Sahuagin are fish-like, highly fish-like really, with teeth like a shark, with webbed feet and hands, gills, and a finned tail. There is an additional webbing down the back and the elbows, and notably also where human ears would be. They have these fin-like extensions. Mutations run high in this species that can be hatched with some odd features and are highly prone to being altered by magic or elemental energies if they are hatched near a location of intense supernatural contamination. Mutations can also be triggered even after they are fully grown, such as the case with those mutants who have 4 usable arms instead of 2. These 4-armed mutations are usually black, fading to grey in colour, and dominate the others. They are a lawful evil culture who worship the shark god Sepilar and also revere the being called Lokatha. Somewhat like the Drow, female religious leaders dominate all aspects of their culture other than war and raiding. And I'll have a video on the sahuagin pretty soon. Sea elves form 2 distinct racial groups on Toril. The first are from the Great Sea and have deep green skin mottled and striped with brown. The others are from the Sea of Fallen Stars and have blue skin with white stripes and patches. Both groups are robust and tall, with long limbs and long, thickly webbed fingers and toes. Their hair is normally long unless they are of the warrior class, and it's quite thick and can be blue, black, silver, or rarely red. All sea elves have gills visible on their necks and over their ribs. They tend to have either lightly clad in garments of black, browns, and greens made from underwater plants, or they wear no clothing at all. Merfolk have got their own video and they are quite prevalent as well. So there's merfolk. Coalinth are marine hobgoblins, similar to the land-dwelling variety in many respects. Coalinth dwell in shallow, fresh or salt water and make their homes in caves. Their bodies are sleeker than those of hobgoblins and they have light green skin. They speak an unusual dialect of the hobgoblin tongue and they tend to employ thrusting weapons like spears and polearms, which are much more effective underwater. Coalinth are every bit as disagreeable as hobgoblins, preying on everything they come across, and of course they detest aquatic elves. In the Sea of Fallen Stars there is a tribe called the Sea Hulks. Aquatic races do not call it the Sea of Fallen Stars though, they know it as the realms of Seros, which means embracing life in the merfolk language. The Shalarin are also found in the Sea of Fallen Stars, or Seros, though they may be able to inhabit the land. The Shalarin generally don't leave Seros. They are biped humanoids with olive smooth skin like a dolphin, usually silvery but often with splashes of colours that you would find on a coral reef. They have gills along their collar that take in water and they exhale the water through the slits on the side of their ribcage. They have a very prominent dorsal fin that makes their race easily recognisable. Some call them fin heads or simply fins. This dorsal fin runs up the bridge of the nose, extends sharply like a shark fin 1 foot above the head, flares out about 2 feet behind the shoulders and runs all the way down the spine, providing exceptional swimming prowess. They have eyes that are more like a marine creatures than a merfolk or sea elves, appearing entirely black or possibly a deep purple or a blue. And though they stand about 6 feet tall, the dorsal fin makes them seem 7 feet tall with long, fully webbed fingers and toes. Their culture is caste-based and they are widely known to be skilled diplomats. Tritons, also known as the Eldars or the Aloof Ones or the Longmanes or the Blues, they tend to have settlements in deep waters, quite deep waters, and rarely interact with other species outside of extraordinary times. Even more so than the sea elves, the Tritons fight constantly with the sahuagin and tend to be arrogant crusaders with a great sense of their own importance. Kind of like the Gondor of the ocean. They believe they're the primary beings responsible for keeping everyone else safe from the horrors of the deep. They're not wrong, though. Ages ago, they migrated to various worlds from the plane of water in pursuit of some of the worst aquatic nightmares you can imagine, and they've been really good at keeping things in check for thousands of years at great cost to themselves. It's a pity that barely anyone outside of the sea knows this or gives the Tritons the respect they rightfully expect from others. They are robust and heroically proportioned humanoids. They've normally got a deep blue skin and lustrous long green hair, fins along their lower legs. In earlier editions they had fins instead of feet, but that would make for a lousy player character on the land. Those of Seros, the Sea of Fallen Stars, may have a pearl or light green skin. Tritons can breathe air and water with gill slits along their neck. Some are perplexed why Tritons, as a deep ocean dwelling species, don't have dark vision. Have you noticed? Well, they light up the waters around their fortified citadels with dazzling bioluminescent marine life and enchantments that provide spectacular beauty. Shining light, even in the coldest and darkest depths. You'll not find a better example of a point of light in the wilderness than a Triton city. Noble melenti are the sahuagin mutants that appear almost exactly like sea elves. Internally, they are still sahuagin, and like a shark, any missing teeth will be replaced with new ones. While barely noticeable, melenti have vestigial cartilaginous ridges behind the ears where the anterior fins might have grown. These are hidden beneath the hair from birth and are not noticeable unless closely felt beneath the scalp, but they are there. What the monster manual doesn't mention is that the faction known as the Noble Melenti, who reject the savage ways of their own kind, evasive and highly secretive about the nature of their home until they know and trust those that they meet. These noble melenti rejected the manipulations and savagery of sahuagin society to form their own colony beyond the reach of the Sea Devil Kings. They realized that most races, including those that originally spawned them, hate them with blind ferocity, and they prepare themselves against such hatred at all times. They strive to emulate the cultures of other races, but in combat, a bit of the savagery and the nature of the sahuagins shines through, and they are ruthless fighters. Noble melenti are found in two populations in Seros. Their twilight depth colony of Kaimel rests on the treacherous slopes above the Bimmel Reach, the Trench, amid the ruins of Humara's most remote outposts. Kaimel's leader is chosen by popular vote among the citizens to represent them. The people of Kaimel are all equals and each accept the role in society as labourer and support structure. Whether they work, hunt, cook or play, no one does so alone, and everyone performs their duties to aid and support their fragile society. They're brand new by comparison to the rest of the societies of Seros. There is another colony revealed during the slaughter of the garrison at Velirar in the Bay of Jacinta. The melenti interrupted and slew the attacking sahuagin, saving the elves therein. In exchange for their aid and the continued military support of Velirar, the aquatic elves tentatively accept the melenti in order to reduce the threat of the sahuagin marauders from the Alamba. Also, melenti smiths operate in deep-sea caves, much like the hobgoblin variant, fashioning metal into shields, weapons and tools, which is a respected skill and valuable trade power in the ocean, particularly amongst the precious metals of copper and silver and stuff. Lokatha, also known as the fishmen, the gill men, or the kuo-toa word for slave, which is kapau, are humanoid with scaled skin and very fish-like head. Often looked upon as the victims of prejudice and injustice. Those from the surface world who are aware of the kuo-toa may mistake the lokatha for them. The lokatha have been the slaves of nearly every race of Seros, though mostly of the kuo-toans and the ixitxachitl at various times in the past. Now, while pockets of them are still enslaved in the depths, most lokatha live a nomadic existence in the lower shallows. Some point to their hunter-gatherer culture as a sign of barbarism, but the lokatha simply move on and pay them little mind. Foremost in their minds are their sense of community and an overwhelming drive for freedom. Serosian lokatha appear as humanoids, covered by fine scales. Their fish-like heads have large eyes and a gaping toothless mouth, small fins where their ears should be. The males of the inner sea are distinguished from the females by the coloration of a stripe near the egg sac on the females. The skin ranges from an olive green to an ochre scales. Stomach scales are of a sea green to a pale yellow hue. The female's egg sac stripe is merely a continuation of the stomach scale colour. The flukes and dorsal fins either match the scales tone or the stomach coloration. Their eyes are larger than a typical humanoid, and almost all lokatha have black eyes, but a few have white eyes, which is seen as a good omen. Their body size is comparable to humans. Their long history of being cruelly enslaved by other races shapes a lot of what their society has become. They are very tight-knit, both with their own people and with anyone they consider an ally to their people. They see no shame in being captured or enslaved, with a stoic core to them which is quite impressive. They only see shame in accepting their captivity and will fight against it whenever they can. Being accepted by an individual lokatha will mean a friendship for life, and being accepted by their tribe means a mobile home away from home, as they will consider you as good as a member of their own people. Strength in unity is their core philosophy. The ixitxachitl are mentioned in my video on the Demon Lord Demogorgon at the end of that video. They are stingray-like, intelligent and evil dwellers in warm waters, known as the chitls, the deep zealots, or the demon rays. They are xenophobic religious zealots who worship dark powers, and their society is ruled over by a caste of vampires. The three upper ranks of Chitl society are the Vitans, who rule the great temples, the Divatans, who rule the great cities and their subordinate temples, and the Vitanar guards, which protect His Holiness the Vitanar. The Vitanar at the top, who rules the holy city of Zedrus. As far as any ixitxachitl is concerned, the Vitanar is its god manifest in Seros. The vampirism of these creatures seems to be unique, that they have no problem with sunlight, less resistance to harm, and their bite tends to drain life force rather than blood. They impart this gift according to their religion, and only ever to members of their own race, who all strive to receive it. This slaving race, the ixitxachitl, have kept and bred entire populations of Koalinth and lokatha slaves to perform menial tasks and heavy labour in their society. The cruelties visited upon these slaves are in keeping with their religion, which preaches a noted preference for the strong who prey on the weak. The ultimate gift is to be chosen to become a vampire. Thus, in order to be worthy of such a gift, Chitls from birth are arrogant, self-centered, and paranoid of all others, and the competition for anything is fierce. The ixitxachitl of Zedran reefs were once content to remain in the western shallows of Seros, claiming their territory and invading very rarely into other claimed waters. With the advent of the 12th Seros War, the Chitls died by the thousands and were merely looked upon this time of loss as a time of tempering, a crucible through which they would emerge stronger and more worthy. To every other race, that means more bloodthirsty and invasive. Thus, as the time continues for them through the present year, many Chitls throw themselves into battle against unbelievable odds and believe that they are improving themselves and their society through this practice. The weak perish, the strong make others stronger. The morkoth, also known as the corrupted, the kraknith, which is a Triton word for kin of kraken, and deep demons, a slang term from the merfolk, and wraiths of the deep. The morkoth are among the strangest life forms of Seros, and certainly among the strangest of all Toril. Given a strange morphology, sages are left wondering what race originally spawned them, as they appear a gross amalgamation of numerous species, from a human to a kuo-toa to a lokatha to a squid, even some elven attributes. Their skin is dark, ranging from a deep purple to an inky black, with the tips and undersides of limbs and tentacles, as well as spined dorsal fin on the back of the head, lightened with bioluminescent silver in the depths, which appears merely as a lightening of the skin and the scale coloration in the sunlit shallow waters. Their heads are akin to lokatha, though rather than a wide jaw, they have a beak similar to an octopus or some of the kraken. Their eyes are wide and fish-like, moving independently on either side of the head. Their four forelimbs are of three types, and these determine which layer of society the morkoth inhabits. Human-like arms and hands, claws and pincer limbs, and flexible tentacles. If they have at least two human-like limbs with at least 3 fingers on each hand, they can cast spells and rise in morkoth society accordingly. Those morkoth with pincers and claws become part of the military caste, and those with common tentacles become the underclass of morkoth, who they basically are lorded over the slave classes, but that's about it. The morkoth maneuver and move through the water by means of undulating muscular contractions of their octopoidal bodies and by jet propulsion. Basically, they flex the lower halves of their bodies. These valves simultaneously force water rapidly through their gills and other orifices to pressurize the water and rapidly surge them through. There are many differences between the outer sea morkoth and those of Seros, some of which have to do with their histories and others with the sea itself. Morkoth of Seros are not solitary cave dwellers who wait for victims to stumble upon them. The morkoth of Seros, and with a few exceptions, live a majocratic state at the foot of the lowest reaches of the Hamur Plateau, called the Arcanum Olith. It resembles Thay in the sense that each ruler dominated a single school of magic, though one of them was the Grand Arcane Mage who ruled over all the other schools. The sorcerers were the elite class, and all Morkoth society supported their rule in many ways. You'll notice that I've shifted to a past tense, and I'll explain this in a minute. The rulers were the Grandcasters who ruled the towns and villages, and as the apprentice of the All-Counts. They, in turn, operated at the sufferance of the Grand Arcane, whose Grand Tor Arcanal acted as the heart of Oleth. Morkoth warriors have partial chitinous plates cut instead of scales along their bodies, and their forelimbs are pretty damn strong. The mages ruled over society, over their military as well, but typically put one of the two warriors in charge as their proxy. Many suspect the Grand Arcane Mage discovered how to be a lich, and became a lich and rarely left the Grand Tor Arcanal. Unlike the Morkoth of the Outer Sea, the female Morkoth take their fertilized eggs, and after finding a magic-using being, they implant the eggs among the internal organs of that victim. With an incubation period of 2 months, the eggs hatch inside their carrier, and the young Morkoth gnaw their way free. Each hatchling Morkoth does 1d4 plus 2 points of damage while emerging from its host. Cure Disease will destroy 1d6 incubating eggs, but up to 24 eggs are implanted within any host, and the spell only destroys 1 to 6. Kuo-toa are similar to the lokatha in many ways, though they usually dwell in the deep oceans and lakes of the Underdark. They also exist on the surface of the world in the Sea of Fallen Stars and other regions. Most of them worship the goddess Blibdulpulp, who is often quite a baffling god to contend with. But a few groups of Kuo-toa worship Demogorgon. As mentioned in my video on this race, they are prone to being crazy religious zealots and babbling lunatics that have a caste called Whips who exist just to keep the rest of the population in control, the Kuo-toa monitors. Kuo-toa are antagonistic and have no problems with kidnapping others and sacrificing them to their gods or to use them as slave labour. They're not completely unreasonable though, and will trade for goods in exchange for their slaves and other crafted goods. But you can never tell with this species. They may be stable or they may attack you for no reason. It pays to be on your guard at all times around them. In the Sea of Fallen Stars, the Morkoth country, the Arcanum of Oleth, ever since the upheaval and disaster for their race caused by the Spell Plague, has been ruled over by the invading Kuo-toa, and a bastion of Blibdulpulp's power in the world of Toril. Scrags, also known as saltwater trolls, are the bane of many creatures in the sea as well as the land, since these saltwater trolls are as voracious and mean as their surface counterparts. The Scrags dominate the waters off the southern coast of Inpiltur, though they are also found in scattered pockets all over Seros. Nearly as ugly as a troll of the surface world, Scrags have the heavy scaling on their skin, limp seaweed mops for hair, and their skin varies from the sickliest shade of pea soup green to a deep mottled emerald green. Their claws and teeth are a dingy dun colour, most often encrusted with pieces of their last victims. Even more barbaric than the Koalinth or the Mero, the Scrags lack even rough military structures and the ability to use tools. They simply live in small tribes of packs, dominated by one female shaman and chieftain. Scrags hunt in groups of 3 or 4, but when they're warring with one another tribe or settlement, the entire tribe can become a striking, attacking force, even young ones. They may attack ships, simply clawing their way through the hull and swarming up the sides to eventually overwhelm the crew and the boat. As mentioned in my video on the Tortils, these turtle-like humanoids also have an aquatic subspecies that exists mainly in the southern oceans around the island and mainland coast near Chult. If you want to go into more great detail on Seros, the Sea of Fallen Stars, then check out the supplement written for it, which is what I'm heavily relying on for this information, written by Stephen E. Shen back in 1999, within the scope of the Threat from the Sea novel trilogy by Mel Odom. Obviously, any details on specific locations and individuals in that region will have changed a lot between when the supplement was published and the current World of Toril on the 5th edition of this game. Please hit the like button if you've made it this far, subscribe if you like what I do, check out my Patreon for exclusive content and all the full scripts for these videos, buy some merchandise, wear your geek with pride, check out Patron Blades for a mighty smooth shave, links all down below under in the doobly-doo, and as always, thanks for listening, and I'll be back with more for you very soon.